Inspiration is like a mill, like a renewable energy source. No matter if you're working on a novel, a new sewing project, anything creative, you have the inspiration, the ideas already inside you. It is simply the question of finding them and accepting them. We're going to be focusing on writing because that's the main area that I have experience in, but this concept can be translated, or whatever you want to call it. It can be adapted to any kind of creative field. This core concept is changing your perception of your own creativity from some like holy grail that you need to find every time you start a new project into a renewable energy source, something that you feed and keep growing and moving. This involves recognizing your own taste. There are so many videos out there about getting over writer's block or finding new ideas, all the tips and tricks about these things. But the truth is that all of it is so personal. As consumers, we are all so distractible and so easily swayed by what is popular, what new things are coming up in the media, and we often look past how individual our taste, our creative process, how personal everything is, really. And most often, this is when our creativity comes to a halt. And this is because we are trying to create something that we are not personally connected to. We haven't tapped into the individual connection that is required to have the passion about any given creative project. In creative circles, there's a phrase or a quote or something that goes along the lines of, don't create what you think people want to see or what will sell, create what you would want to see specifically. Because odds are, other people will want to see it too. And that last part of the statement is the key to getting your mill moving. Creating what you want to see seems easy in concept, but in practice, it's actually pretty tricky. When you don't have the references or the guides to help you achieve this in a more strategic way. One of my new favorite things to do is to analyze stories. This can be TV shows, movies, books, really any kind of media, and really break down what I personally love about this story. Because everybody sees stories differently. We all have our own biases, we all have types of stories that we love. And diving into why you love them will give you the key to creating new stories. Looking at your favorite stories in a curious way is so important and will give you this kind of database that we're going to call the story bank. The story bank is building basically a list of all the stories you can think of that inspire you, all the ones that you love in any kind of way. It can be that you love the plot, it can be that you love the characters, it can be that you love really anything about it. It could be the soundtrack, it could be the editing, it could be anything. But this part of the process is so important because this gives you a chance to really look at your own taste and get a sense of what kind of stories you would make from these pieces. This is not saying that you like every part of all of these stories. That is simply not true, because each of these stories will have parts that you'll want to discard. And at the same time, they'll have little parts that you want to keep. And that is the part that I really want you to remember. Because using this method is like building a story mosaic. And a mosaic that is taken from pieces of already put together ceramics. Picture each of these stories as their own ceramic piece. And each one you have laid out in front of you, but you are literally going to smash these pieces, and they're only replicas. Don't worry, we're not like figuratively smashing priceless works of art, but these replicas are going to be smashed, and you're going to take your favorite parts from these pieces and put them together into your own mosaic. Maybe you'll take the plot from one of them, you'll take the characters from the other, you'll take the, like, I don't know, you'll take something else from another one, and you'll take something else from another one, and you'll just put them all together and see what happens. Once these pieces are together, if you look really closely, sure, you can tell that they were a part of something before, but once you have them formed into their new piece, they are their own piece now. And it has made this work that is completely different from any of the other ones that you took from. Whenever I'm talking to someone about something that I'm writing, there will be a moment where it's like, oh, it's like this. And I think a lot of writers starting out think that that's a bad thing. I personally take it as quite the compliment, because if it's like something that they enjoy, that means I'm pitching to the right person. It means that, yes, you'll probably enjoy this. If you enjoyed this work, you will probably enjoy this. And in film, this is especially implemented in the technique of using comps. I don't actually know what that word means. If you guys do know what that word means, please let me know down in the comments. I think it's like composites, or I don't know. But the point is, in this process, you get 3 different stories. They give the gist of what you can expect in this new story. It's this story meets this story meets this. So all together, they make this new story. Finding these stories after the fact is a lot harder than finding them before. Because if you use this technique to your advantage during the building phase, it is so much more useful. Because once you have these comps in mind, you can refer back to them and look at them as something that, like, yes, you love this piece of work and this is what you wanted to pull from. These are the ones you were focusing on, and remembering what you loved about them. What is it that got you excited about writing this story, and how can you tap back into that? In every creative field, you will be looking at other people's work in order to gain inspiration. This can either be a subconscious activity, or it can be a conscious activity like we have talked about. And I think having it as a conscious action is way better, because you become very aware of the kind of media and the kind of art you are consuming, what kind you are drawn to as an individual. This immensely helps with finding what kind of message, what kind of stories you deeply want to tell. In my case, I recently discovered that I really love writing stories about characters who are going against what society is telling them they should do. This, coupled with wanting to bring more queer representation into the media, has really helped me narrow in on what kind of stories I want to tell. There are so many options when it comes to this, and it doesn't really limit me in the way of genres. It doesn't limit plots, and it's just kind of my own formed guideline in my creative process. Feeding your creative mill with things like this is what will keep you going. And another thing that I want to bring up is your why, your reason for creating. What is your goal? What is the driving force of you wanting to bring art, bring stories, or whatever you are creating into the world. Is there a message you want to share? Is there a specific emotion? Or is it just that you want to have fun? Do you want to create things to just share with the people you love? That is still a great reason, but it is so important to know what your personal reason is, because again, you can go back to that and revisit it whenever things are slow. This is the key to keeping your mill running at a steady pace. I will always recommend the route of having something to say with your work, but that is more to do with if you are pursuing a kind of artistic business. I think having any kind of passion behind your creative process is really powerful. And being able to connect with like-minded people through creativity is one of the best things I have experienced and highly recommend. With all this, I am not saying that you should not take breaks. Your mill, it should be at a steady pace. It does not have to be on high speed all the time. You can slow it down a little bit, take a little breather. However, when you need to come back, when you want to start moving again at a faster pace, this allows you not to struggle with getting it started again, not having to dust off the cobwebs and really crank it out. This is so that it is sustainable. This is not an instruction manual. This is not a one-size-fits-all kind of situation. No one else is going to put stories together in the same way as you do. Your stories are unique to you. And you are drawn to certain characters. You're drawn to certain stories, certain messages. And that is beautiful. If you enjoyed this video, please go check out my last one where I talked about unlocking your creative curiosity and looking at the world with curiosity in general. I think you'd really enjoy it. And other than that, do all the things, hit the buttons, and I will see you lovely creatives next week with another video. Keep creating. Bye.